Hey everyone, and welcome to the GRC Room for 5 questions. I'm Mike Andrews, here once again with Karina Clever, and we're happy to welcome Essert founder and CEO DV Dronamraju. DV helps customers navigate and automate their compliance. How are you doing today, DV?
Fantastic. Thank you for inviting me over. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to your channel.
Yeah, really glad we can do this together. Without further ado, let me pass it off to Karina for a brief introduction and the first question.
Thank you, Mike. Welcome, DV. I'm Karina Clever, founder of Clever Compliance. We do fun things like compliance management as a service and getting rid of tool lard. That's our most favorite one. A fun project we're on right now is NIS2 compliance out in EU. That's a great one. So we're going to dive straight into the questions. DV, 5 questions, right? First one, which part of cyber GRC do you believe that businesses struggle with the most?
Well, thank you for that question, Karina. Let me give you a vendor's perspective because I'm not in a CISO role right now or a GRC role. The biggest issue I find with many companies is them able to connect risk to actual operations. Obviously, all the GRC programs are siloed, and we all know that. I believe cyber GRC needs to be real-time, embedded, and kind of actionable, right? Many organizations often don't even have an active risk register that can tie controls and effectiveness of controls, etc., etc. Especially now with a lot of shadow AI and enterprises embarking on new AI transformation, that active risk register becomes really critical today, right? Gives you a perspective.
I think you're absolutely right. And that glue is missing between those ethereal frameworks, those ethereal regulations that are many times mimicked in those ethereal tools that are supposedly GRC tools, right? And what really actually happens in your company, huge disconnect. So absolutely correct. Mike, what do you think about that?
That's a really big one. We see so much focus on compliance because that's what closes the deals. And I get it. We're there to support the business, but things work better if we take the time to understand the business, then assess the risk first, and then look at compliance. And DV expressed that well. That was a good one. The second question for DV, what's one data breach that stood out to you the most and why? We've seen so many, but just curious which one stands out to you.
This was some time back. It was quite some time back. The Marriott data breaches. It was like a huge load of consumer data out there. As a result, there was a lot of spam calls. Everybody got phone numbers, email addresses, and spam calls coming across the board, right? And it exposed that third-party vulnerabilities as well, right? Now, that triggered me. 2 years after that, I wrote a white paper called Free the World of Data Breaches. And intention there was to try to get to a point where everybody, this amendment that came about, right? Third-party amendments that came about, data protection amendments that came about, right? It was towards that tune saying, if a large company basically asks their suppliers and partners saying, hey, we will prevent breaches to the extent possible contractually, right? So then you can stop breaches, things like that, right? So that was my big one.
I think my very favorite one going, because as soon as you said way back, I remembered the one where a huge company hired a subservice organization to do disposition of laptops. And that company hired another company, and they literally dumped 1,000 laptops into a dumpster in the backyard loading dock of a huge office building. And somebody came and just took the laptops and got a whole bunch of proprietary information off of it. It's pretty incredible.
Oh,
I'm trying to remember who exactly that was, but I mean, there was a huge settlement, and that was just such a basic thing. Anyway, good answer. Thank you. So next question, what was the most impactful GRC related advice that you ever received?
It's the same thing as the first one that we talked about, risk management element of it, right? Compliance blinds you to risk, right? And don't let that happen. Compliance doesn't imply anything if you don't manage risk on an active basis. So watch out for anything that can go wrong, right? I was told this by an auditor during the review that we were doing, right? They said, hey, audit is only at that instance, and looking hindsight 2020, right? What happens the next minute of the audit, you got to be very careful about that, right? Anything can go wrong and your disaster recovery may not take off. You have to be careful for that. So that's the advice I receive and I pass on to many founders that I meet.
That's such a big one. And I hear even seasoned professionals in GRC using the terms wrong, like threat, vulnerability, risk. And sometimes it doesn't matter when you use the wrong word because we get it, it's cybersecurity related, but it really does matter because threat is what someone else out there wants to do and can do. Vulnerability is, could it hurt us? And then when we think about risk, we have to think about those two things along with the impact. And it's not just something off in the corner for the IT team to worry about, because this is business risk. It's not IT risk only. It's all the same. So such a big one. What do you think about that one, Karina, before we move on?
I will usually get very happy when companies do anything. So a lot of big companies are, yes, there is definitely the proper way to put in some controls and measures in place. But I think the bigger thing is to shift that hyper focus from the 12,000 row checklist that warrants the 70 people walking around aimlessly for 3 years in your hallways and nobody knows what the hell they're doing, to actually getting to the controls to be applicable and relevant to your true operations. And from there, absolutely starting what are the threats from the outside? What is our internal posture looking like? What are our internal vulnerabilities? What are our internal threats? Right? We can definitely, once we have those pieces identified, we can definitely start separating out those environments.
When I think of Karina, I think of the 12,000 row spreadsheet because I think we've known each other for two plus years now, and you talk about that a lot, and you're good at helping companies tailor that down to what actually applies. And it's so important because if you're worrying about controls that don't even apply to you, you have less time to focus on what does matter to you. No, that's good on both of you there with that one. Fourth question for DV. What do you do differently that allows you to excel in the field that we're in?
Well, that's a fantastic question. At Essert, being on the vendor side of the equation, you see a lot of companies talking about agentic, AI powered, continuous compliance, all these words, right? What is it that we do differently? We do the generation of the solution for a particular framework within a week. So we've had customers come to us and say, I need something different. It's a different regulation in a completely different industry, brand new, etc. Can you build a solution for us for that? And we turn around within a matter of a week or two, we actually put it out there. But that's our superpower. And we use AI to do that. And we take out a lot of manual stuff and assurance processes, assertion processes, the workflows related to that, etc., etc. We put it all together in a very seamless way, right? That's what we do different compared to everybody else. Obviously, there's a lot of companies, and you guys are also aware of many companies coming up saying, oh, it's an easy button, push this button, everything is done for you. Even today, I don't know if there is an easy button. And I've been doing this for
I wake up in the middle of the night with nightmares from that. I literally cold sweat and nightmares.
I don't understand that marketing messaging at all. I believe that is just snake oil in a way of speaking, because this is not just about technical controls and evidence associated with technical controls, whether your MFA is turned on or off, It is about privileged access. It is about accountability of the people involved in the process and the right workflows, change management. There's a lot of that actually is important for a good, solid security framework in the organization.
Look, so I think that some of this is great intent. I think that some of this is because the people who write the checks are like, don't tell me, just get it done. I think that a lot of it is technology moving, right? Sure, you want that integration. Sure, you want to verify that that backup was done. That could be a checkbox because it's an automatic something, right? There are some cases where, yes, that's completely appropriate and a wonderful lifespan because you don't have to walk around trying to get screenshots from who the hell knows where. Oh, Bobby's out. Today's Tuesday. Oh man, maybe we'll have to wait till next week. It's some of the way audits are conducted is completely ludicrous and archaic, but we do want to we want to take advantage of the technology where possible, but it isn't always applicable because we're also cutting out the decision points that we need to have as part of that governance posture.
I also recently heard of another company that is using agents to do screen grabs. I was like, that itself is a risk.
That is itself, and actually I have a whole new thing that I can talk about, but we're getting close to time. So a quick question here. So last one, what is the top thing that a business can do today? One top thing that they can do today to strengthen their cyber GRC program?
I come back to my first thing, active risk registry, unified active risk registry. So everybody who needs to know, especially privileged users, should have access to it, should have access to the remediations that are actually built into that active risk registry. They should know that, right? If some disaster occurs in a physical location in some place, you should have a quick reference, immediate reference, so you can act on it right away, right? So that, I think, would be a fantastic thing to have.
Well, the other thing that I'm seeing a lot of risk registries miss is the failure of real, true controls, right? So we have these framework risk registry items that are recommended control items that are just risks. But what we don't have is a good enough definition of our true operations. And when those controls fail, that failure generates that risk item that we can now track and mitigate, right? And a lot of our risk registry items do not include failed controls. So that is something that again requires a very good alignment and an appropriation to your actual real true operations.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it. It was nice talking to you guys.
If you want to connect with DV, you can find him on LinkedIn or at essert.io. That's ESSERT.io. And thanks so much, DV. Have a great day.
Take care.